Welcome to a new daily top Askreddit video. Today's topic.
Serious, what's a disaster that is very likely to happen, but not many people know about? Attention, serious, tag notice. Jokes, puns, and off-topic comments are not permitted in any comment, parent or child. Parent comments that aren't from the target group will be removed, along with their child replies. Report comments that violate these rules. Posts that have few relevant answers within the first hour, and posts that are not appropriate for the serious tag will be removed. Consider doing an ARMA request instead. Thanks for your cooperation and enjoy the discussion. I am a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit if you have any questions or concerns. A major fissure eruption in Skei, Iceland. Since the Norse settlement there have been two, the Elga eruption c. 939 CE and the Lakagígor eruption of 1783-4. Although Elga was larger, the massive Laki eruption is better documented. It created local devastation, crop failures, poisoned grazing animals and people. Half of the farm animals and 20% of Icelanders died. Things got so bad that the Danish government considered evacuating the entire island. We now know the Laki plume of sulfur dioxide spread across the northern hemisphere. In the UK, it killed tens of thousands of people. Elsewhere there were crop failures and poisonous fogs. The climate went berserk with a series of bitterly cold winters that caused the Mississippi to freeze in New Orleans and ice flows in the Gulf of Mexico. Rains in the Nile Valley and the monsoon in India and China failed, leading to famine. Total death toll in the 18th century, anything up to 1 million people. I'm very curious about the North American winters after 1783 and the ice flows in the Mississippi you mention. Can you link some sources where I can read more about this aspect of the effects of the eruption? Thanks. Was curious myself, as I would have thought the Mississippi freezing would be very rare. But looks like it happens roughly once a century. Last one was back in 1919. The amount of methane and other gases that are bubbling up from the Arctic is a lot more than previously thought. Greenhouse gases on steroids. Yeah, but it's even worse because it's a climatic feedback system. The more the temp rises, the more methane is released by melting. This increases the temp, which releases more methane, etc. This needs to get higher up. This is a disaster that will have a worldly impact. The world will continue just fine. Everything living in it, on the other hand. Hey everybody. Do you have anxiety like me? Leave, read something else, anything else. This will not help you. There's very little you can do about a lot of these things, and all it's going to do is make you feel worse about life and our world right now. Please, if your mental health is unstable, go find another thread. Something about puppies and kittens, preferably. The Cascadia subduction zone off the coast of the Pacific Northwest will rip again. Depending on the specifics, it will be a really bad day, or an utterly catastrophic day, for the PNW. That will be from the earthquake itself and from the subsequent tsunami. It rips every several hundred years, and the last one was in the year 1700. Here's an article about it. I always read these things, like the caldera in Yellowstone, and then this zone JD I'm like, oh, I need to visit before it's gone, or happens. But then I'm like, oh, but what if it happens the day I'm there? Ha ha ha, I get it. I don't live in the PNW, but my daughter goes to school there, and studies geology and subduction zones. And recently told us she and some friends would be climbing to the rim of Mount St. Helens. My wife got all worried and said, what if it erupts again while she's up there? Exclamation mark quote. The ocean fisheries will collapse. Yesterday's trash species are today's featured catch of the day, will be tomorrow's memory. Harvesting is occurring at unsustainable rates while environmental degradation is steadily reducing habitat and forage ranges. For many people in developed nations, fish is one option, among many, for protein. For most people in developing nations, it is the cheapest and most accessible option. When it's gone, there will be catastrophic socio-political and economic upheavals. The commercial fishing industry is also the #1 source of plastics in the ocean. Exclamation mark. A powerful earthquake along the New Madrid Fault in Missouri. This was my first thought as well. I only learned about it, growing up in Illinois, because I took a geology course in college. Midwest isn't super known for earthquakes, and if it happens it'll probably be exceedingly bad. Not like they build houses to be quake resistant usually. US building codes are aware of the faults across the country and account for potential seismic events where applicable, including the one being mentioned. It is true that most people associate the West Coast with earthquakes, but there are certain areas across central US and East Coast where things could be just as severe. I'm a practicing structural engineer. I was going to say this. The damage will be widespread. The fact there's actually fracking being done in the area of the fault terrifies me as a northern Illinois resident. Dumb question, not a scientist, but if this is ultimately caused by plates moving deep inside the Earth, would fracking help release pent-up pressure, so it would be slightly less catastrophic when the big one does happen? Originally from Shamo here, I've felt numerous shakes both in Southeast and St. Louis areas. There have been several 7+ here. Due to the nature of the bedrock in the Earth's crust in the central United States, earthquakes in this region can shake an area approximately 20 times larger than earthquakes in California. https://dnr.mo.gov/land-geology/hazards/earthquakes/science/facts-new-madrid-seismic zone. Is this the fault that caused the Mississippi to flow backwards for a spell back in the 1800s? People don't really know, but coffee beans are on their way to extinction. https://www.smithsonianmag.com/smart-news/more-half-all-coffee-about-us/press-media/q.org/about-us/about-media/q-scientists-reveal-the-that-60-of-wild-coffee https://www.weforum.org/agenda/2019/02/many-coffee-species-threatened-with-extinction/. Out of everything in this thread, this scares me the most. Because for most of the other ones, I'll just die. But for this one, I'll suffer. There's significant peril to coffee right now because the last approximately 300 years of coffee, its effective commercial life, hasn't encouraged biological diversity. Coffee began in Africa, and the majority of its commercial lineage can be traced to just a couple of plants brought by colonial powers to other continents. A couple years ago this finally got to be taken seriously, and World Coffee Research is the go-to for research in developing coffees that can adapt to a warmer climate while keeping positive cup attributes. Microplastics. It's being found everywhere in our environment and is already being discovered in the blood, tissues of wildlife and humans. Scientists don't even know what the long-term health effects of this will be. I am betting on it being nothing good. It's been found in human brains and semen for the first time too. Eek. I guess it's time for me to stop consuming those then, sad face. Don't forget the placentas of pregnant women. You know, that brand new organ they grow to have a baby that doesn't see human contact until they deliver. Such a shocking finding in my opinion. They don't know the long-term effects because they can't find a control group without plastic in them. Scientists cannot find a human that is free of microplastics. Antibiotic resistance and the emergence not only of superbugs, but pan-drug-resistant bacteria. Reports say that by year 2050, deaths by infections caused by superbugs will be one of the leading causes of mortality. Regrettably, bacteria are evolving faster than we can develop new antibiotics, and the indiscriminate use of antibiotics in the dairy and poultry industries is only worsening the situation. Perhaps not as big as a natural disaster, but horrifying nonetheless. ETA, this kind of blew up before I noticed. I wish to correct myself, as some people have pointed out, the real issue is the speed at which we are developing new antibiotics and the willingness to develop them. Other drugs are more profitable, e.g. chemotherapy. Let us hope that new development in phage therapies or new antibiotics will be available before it is too late. It's not that the bacteria are evolving faster than we can develop new antibiotics, but faster than we are developing new antibiotics. We have let them run this race while we stand on the sideline. There's literally thousands of new drugs being tested for oncology, versus a few dozen new antibiotic drugs in the pipeline, and of those, maybe 1 in 4 are a new class or mode of action. The newest class of antibiotics in our arsenal is already 40 years old this year. Drug companies just don't fund a lot of research in this area anymore. This is one of the areas that AI is actually revolutionizing. Its predictive ability for pharmacological effects of antibiotics should begin to make huge differences as soon as the next 5 years. Related, increasing temperatures has fungal infections showing up durably in areas they previously would not have been as robust. Combine that with increasing antifungal resistance and yikes. https://www.thelancet.com/journals/landmix/articles/ps2666-5247 opening parenthesis 24 closing parenthesis 00039-9/full text. I said I love The Last of Us, not I want to live The Last of Us, sad face. Epocalypse. In 2038, the old Linux systems that have physical 32-bit time registers are going to run out of time. Kind of like the Y2K bug, but this is a physical memory issue. Hopefully all the old systems will be swapped out by then. Sounds like a problem for 2037, every product manager I've ever worked with. Just been pushed back to Q2 2038 with reduced budget. There are actually two distinct issues. The network time protocol has an overflow issue, which manifests itself at 6 hours 28 minutes and 16 seconds Coordinated Universal Time on the 7th of February 2036. Then Epocalypse is a time computing storage problem that leaves 32-bit machines unable to represent times after 3 hours 14 minutes and 7 seconds Coordinated Universal Time on the 19th of January 2038. There's also a similar potential issue in mainframes in September 2042, which is 2 to the power of 52 microseconds after the 1st of January 1900.